Great. Really great beer. What a great city.
It's nice to pander like that. You could be a politician yourself. Contender stands out. It is just as enthralling and thrilling and actually more meaningful now, in my mind, than even 2001.
Because of Hillary and 8 years of pettiness, not being...
and not so much greatness.
I hope it's not a room full of Republicans. If it is, I'm sorry. I don't mean to any offense. I don't mean any offense.
It's Seattle in an art gallery. I think we're safe. Are you just incredibly prescient, or just a dreamer?
I think I'm a realistic dreamer. I grew up all my life around politics. So my dad was a political cartoonist.
It seems that politicians have flipped the old saying on its head and now say, "I'd rather be president than right." Mm-hmm. What would it take to get it back to the proper way of saying that? I'd rather be right than president.
It takes the right individual. Right now, this president couldn't get an alliance of the nations of the world together to fight off the Klingons if they were invading us. you know, let alone to go up against another country. When I did Commander-in-Chief, the first question that was asked to me at the press conference is, "Aren't you just a shill for Hillary Clinton?" I do want to see a woman in office for sure, but it's just important to have a guy like Obama. That's my humble opinion. Sorry to the Republicans, but John McCain reminds me. Ever see the Muppet Show? Those old guys in the balcony.
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, that's right. He's one of those. I don't know which one of those two he is.
So, who was your role model? Are there women in politics, or were there at that time that you thought, wow?
A lot of people think the Contender was born of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. What it was to me was more born of the Clarence Thomas hearings. You think the country was wrapped by Clarence Thomas. Imagine if a good-looking woman is answering questions about her sex life in front of the Judiciary Committee. And I thought that would really be something.
Had it been a woman, it would have been a Diet Coke can.
See, now that's a sexist comment.
See that? Oh, come on!
That's a sexist comment. I would never say such a thing.
You're the one who wants your daughter to either be fat or go to all-girls school.
Well, that's not sexist. That's being a dad. What dad can't relate to that? But there's no character as noble quite as Joan Allen's character. There was a scene in the movie where she says, "Let me tell you what I stand for." And she gives us the speech, and it was dry with no music. And Steven Spielberg suggested to me that we put music in the scene. I said, "But then everyone will know that I'm endorsing what she's saying." And he said, "Yeah, so what?" He said, "You know, you're not a journalist here. You're a filmmaker. Your job is to put out your point of view." Now, I don't know whether or not he was right or wrong, but when Steven Spielberg sits in an editing room with you and has 2 suggestions for you, you should take them. You know? I think it's a bit of a fairy tale that such a character exists, unfortunately. But that's what movies are to a certain degree. You know, we create movies about characters that are greater than ourselves, that are, beacons for what we would like to be. To this date, I have never been alive to see a person that has sort of that level of nobility in the United States.
Maybe we should change the laws so that you don't have to be a natural citizen.
Well, then Schwarzenegger's going to be our president, and God help us all.
But he's in Hollywood. You don't support him.
I support him playing the Terminator. God bless. And I'll direct it. I'll direct that movie and give me the money.
So you talk about how the actors bring their own interpretations, their own information to this. Now there are these rumors that Gary Oldman does not quite approve of the way he was portrayed eventually in the film.
Douglas Urbanski is his manager. He's from New Jersey, but speaks like Cary Grant, and I needed Gary in the film, so I called up Douglas, and I said, "Douglas, I want you to read the screenplay, and then hopefully Gary will want to do it." 4 hours later, he calls again. I can hear the plane and the pilot in the background, so I know he's on the plane. And he says, "Gary's going to do it." I said, "Douglas, you haven't even landed yet." He goes, "No, but I read it to him over the phone." Now he says to me, "Gary is so excited he finally gets to play the good guy." What I'm assuming is happening is he's getting into character already, saying that I'm not the villain, I'm not the protagonist, I'm the good guy.
But you have another movie that's coming out, and
Nothing but the truth, yeah.
Yeah, and
It's a movie about our principles, and are we ready to allow our principles to destroy us? At what cost? You know.
And this is a recurring theme for you.
Yeah,
I mean, Contender, this,
I'm
Resurrecting the Champ is.
I'm fascinated by principles because most people known to be great were once thought to be crazy.